Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are looking at the 2024 U.S. House of Representative elections, and we are looking at what is likely going to happen when it comes to these races. Let's look back at 2022 first. 2022 was a surprising year in many ways. Republicans did a pretty bad job. They were not expected to do as bad as they did. They were expected to get around 235, if not more, seats. But they only got single-digit gains, which is a pretty poor showing for a minority party during a midterm year. The question is, what caused them to do this? Well, it's already been covered, so I'm not sure I really need to go over it. Needless to say, there was a lot of poor funding for certain candidates in certain seats. Republicans had a terrible campaign. They did not campaign on issues or really explain ways to make things better, like capitalize on the inflation. They didn't really do that. It's really a question of how are Republicans going to do better in the future. We don't know yet, but what we do know is that there are some districts here that are definitely in play, and there are some districts we can definitely talk about coming up right now. So, first of all, I'd just like to say this. I don't think there's going to be a huge swing for either party in 2024. We saw that in 2016 and 2020. There was not a huge swing for either party in both of those years. Republicans lost like 6 seats in 2016, if I remember correctly, and Democrats lost 10 in 2020. If I said, yeah, 2016, 6 lost for Republicans, and 2020, 10 loss for Democrats. So what's likely going to happen in 2024 is that we're not going to see a huge swing. Now the question is, who is slightly favored to get a bigger swing in their direction and maybe pick up a few more seats? And the answer is likely the Republicans. There are some seats that I think Republicans could definitely win come 2024, assuming that they get the right candidate on the ballot, and that candidate would likely be, if I'm being completely honest, the candidate that would get the best turnout and would cause enough Republicans to turn out and really get behind the guy is probably going to be Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a weak candidate at this point. I don't think he has what it takes to win at this time unless Biden becomes very unpopular and people forget how much they hated Trump and thus they vote for him. But what I likely see happening is that at the end of the day, Trump, if he makes it on the ballot, is likely going to help out Republicans nationwide, and they are going to be the slight favorite to gain a few seats in the House. The question are which ones, and what's going to happen to the seats they won that they are vulnerable with. So we are going to go through each one of these that's most important, and we are going to discuss them in detail. Alaska we start with, which has Mary Peltola, the incumbent. Mary Peltola won mainly due to ranked choice voting. She wouldn't have won otherwise. But what's basically going to happen there is that there's likely going to be another top 4 blanket primary, and the candidate that's probably going to do the best is going to be Mary Peltola in that primary. And then the question of what happens next is who is going to which candidates are really going to advance. And I think right now the candidate who is going to advance is probably going to be a Republican, probably an independent, Green Party, Libertarian member, and then somebody else. I don't know if there's going to be 2 Republicans like there were last time. I think the Alaska GOP will try and be more careful with who they select so that they can beat Peltola. But I think in the end, ranked choice voting being such an incumbent favored system, that I really believe Mary Peltola will win re-election. Arizona. We go down to Arizona. David Schweikert is the incumbent Republican in the 1st District. This district, he barely won it by a tilt margin this year, but I do believe he will likely win re-election this next year. I think it's possible he loses if Trump is on the ballot, but I think at the same time he will likely do way better than, I don't know. DeSantis would do better in Arizona than Trump would do. But Trump would get out the base in Arizona, which I think is the important thing. So, based on that, David Schweikert could possibly win re-election. I do think I see that happening. I do think it, just because there's not going to be a huge swing in either direction for either party, and we are expecting Trump to be doing significantly better than expected, even though polling has constantly let him down. He will likely do better than Arizona than most people anticipate. And Arizona's second, we don't really need to talk about that. Arizona's 6, yeah, no reason to talk about that either. We gotta go down to California now. California, John Duarte is up for re-election. It appears this guy is an electoral juggernaut now. I am not sure to what extent he is, because we don't really know if he is going to be... I mean, heck, it's really going to be hard to... It's going to be hard to really see how well he'll do in with regular turnout, because midterm turnout, we got to remember, is going to be significantly lower than presidential election year turnout, and so Duarte might seriously go down at this rate. I think I could see him maybe pulling a Valadeo and maybe coming back later, but he barely squeaked by this year, and he might very well go down in 2024. Of course, David Valadeo probably wins re-election. I don't see him losing at this point. I thought he would lose in 2020. I was wrong yet again. 2022. I was wrong yet again about that. So he's likely going to win re-election again, because he somehow managed to win even though he voted to convict Trump. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense, but he's an electoral juggernaut, man. What else can I say? Young Kim's district is gone. Ken Calvert's district gone. Michelle Steele easily wins, and that looks to be about it. Lauren Boebert's district is one that I really want to touch on in this video. I think it's an interesting district that we have to consider. I don't really know to what extent Boebert is really vulnerable in 2024. I do believe she's going to win re-election, if only by a lean margin, and I'll explain why. I think the district is trending to the left because Colorado as a whole is trending to the left, and that the district will eventually become a possibly a lean D district at the end of the day, especially with a polarizing figure like Boebert in the district. But with that being said, I do believe the district is going to shift back a little bit towards the right, because Joe O'Dea's poor candidacy, I've heard, was a significant factor for why Boebert nearly lost this time around. And I think that this time around, with Trump being on the ballot, Boebert's going to be just fine. Okay. Florida, yeah. Darren Soto might have to worry about his seat, but, okay. Illinois, Eric Sorensen, nothing really to talk about there. Frank Mervan probably gets by as well. And then, of course, Kansas. We can't forget about Kansas. Kansas, Sharice Davids' district is basically done for Republicans. They are really not going to be able to win that district anytime soon. I think that as long as the population of that district keeps going up and the state keeps shifting towards the left, it's going to be incredibly hard for Republicans to ever really gain ground in Kansas again. So, cat, come on. Stop doing that. Sorry, that's my cat. Jared Golden's going to win re-election. That's a pretty obvious one. Um, hmm. What I really want to talk about here, Nevada. Nevada's an interesting one. If Trump is on the ballot, I could legitimately see. I could see Trump losing Nevada. But still there being a shift. I don't. You know what? I think either way, whether or not it's Trump or DeSantis, I think either way. Um, I think either way. Um, all of these districts end up being leaner tilt D. There were some that were pretty close this time around. I would say that they all come very close to flipping, but none of them flip because Clark County is shifting farther and farther towards the right. I think Trump or DeSantis will shift the state another 1.5 points toward the right, or at least get Adam Laxalt margins in the state of Nevada, in Clark County specifically. So I think these candidates are all pretty well slated to win, all of these incumbents, meaning there's not going to be much of a swing there, but there is going to be a swing towards the right, and it is going to affect those districts. We move down to New Mexico. Yvette Harrell has already filed paperwork to run against Gabe Vasquez. I think Vasquez could lose if DeSantis was on the ballot in New Mexico, and if he was able to get Latino turnout for himself, I think that could really benefit Yvette Harrell. But otherwise, I think Vasquez probably wins. I've heard good things about this guy's candidacy, and it is a fairly blue district overall. So I don't really see Vasquez losing otherwise. New York is the most interesting district, not district, state to talk about. So first of all, we got to talk about the elephant in the room that is George Santos. George Santos, he won by 8 points in a D+2 district, which is the insanest thing I've ever seen. I think his district will likely flip back. I really do believe that. I think that he's basically said he's retiring at this point. And I think it's done for him. So as a result, I really do believe that with all these scandals and everything, once he retires, he's just going to be done, and the district will flip back into Democratic control. Now, with that being said, Anthony Despacito will have the incumbent factor in his race, and he will likely end up being able to win that race as well. Although I'm not sure how well he does. He could win it by less, but I think there is the possibility he does end up winning that race, just because of the fact he's doing. He somehow managed to win in 2022. I don't know how he won that. Nicole Miliotakis should be just fine. Pat Ryan, Mike Lawler. We really got to talk about Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler's district is really debatable. I don't know if he wins re-election or not. I'll be completely honest. I think that district could swing back towards the Democrats. We will have to see. I don't know if it really matters if DeSantis or Trump is on the ballot in this scenario. But I think with the incumbent's advantage, he might be able to hold on. Assuming the environment is Republican leaning. If not, if it's a Democratic leaning environment, then yeah. Mark Molinaro, he should be able to win re-election. And that brings us to North Carolina, where I do believe Wiley Nickel will lose in his R+2 district. He won narrowly this year, but I think it's going to be pretty obvious that he is not able to hold on, especially if DeSantis is on the ballot. DeSantis would be able to win North Carolina by like 3 points, and Nickel would likely go down with him. Not go down with Joe Biden. So Ohio, we really got to talk about Greg Landsman's district. Greg Landsman probably wins re-election. That district is pretty far gone, but it's not really too late for Republicans to make a move there. Marcy Kaptur is... Don't ask me. Don't ask me how she won by 13 in a Trump plus 3 seat. Don't ask me. It doesn't make any sense, okay? I think that with Trump on the ballot, though, Kaptur would likely lose, since I see no way for there to be enough ticket splitting in favor of her. She's a generic D. I don't really see any reason why. So I think that if Republicans put up a candidate that is not J.R. Majewski or some other Trump nut job, I think Marcy Kaptur is likely to lose. And that's all I got to say there. Amelia Sykes probably would lose as well in that scenario, which would give Republicans 2 gains there. They would get a gain from North Carolina, so that is 3 gains. Lori Chavez de Reamer is really a toss-up. I don't know how well her district will fare in the future for her, but it should be interesting to see that. Matt Cartwright is unbeatable at this point. I don't see him winning. Susan, I don't see him losing. I'm crazy tonight. I'm sorry. It's late, guys. I'm tired. Susan Wild is likely going to probably going to lose, actually. She is a weaker candidate than Cartwright. Cartwright has a very strong appeal to him that somehow manages to get him Trump voters. So, and yeah. Chris Deluzio probably somehow manages to hold on, I'm guessing, although it really does depend if Trump or DeSantis is on the ballot. I think Trump could get out the base and maybe get that district flipped, but who really knows? Texas, the 34th district is gone for Republicans. The only reason they were able to make it closer this time around is because Myra Flores wasn't incumbent. That's really it. Henry Cuellar's district, don't expect to ever flip that again if you're a Republican. Virginia, Jen Kiggins likely wins re-election. Abigail Spanberger likely wins, unless DeSantis would actually do really good in Virginia, I think. And I think that Spanberger could legitimately go down, assuming that DeSantis was on the ballot, but we are assuming Trump is on the ballot in this scenario. The last one I really have to talk about is the 3rd District of Washington, and this one is a true toss-up. The only person who's declared their candidacy right now is Joe Kent, who ran for this seat before and lost. If Kent wins the primary, this district is almost certain to be a hold for Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. But if it is not, if Kent loses in the primary, then I could see this district flipping, which would give Republicans another gain. So let's assume that. We will give that seat to Republicans. We will say, okay, so that's 1, That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 seats Republicans flip, and then Democrats would probably flip the one in New York. Plus, they would likely be able to flip. They'd probably flip back Anthony Despacito's seat. Excuse that. That was my cat being stupid. They'd probably flip Anthony Despacito's seat because the ticket splitting, he probably won't have it. That was a Biden plus 14 seat, and I just don't see it really end up flipping. I don't really see it ending up being a hold for the Republicans. I think there is some truth to the fact that a lot of these members in New York are likely just going to be renting these seats out rather than actually, rather than actually keeping them for a number of years. I think they're going to have their days are going to be limited holding these seats. So I do think overall Republicans will make a net gain of from 1 to 4 seats in the House, which will give them around 226 seats total based off of these very early numbers. It's really hard to see where some of these seats are going, but we do know from 2022 that there are some seats that are gone. For instance, Michigan's 3rd is gone for Republicans. Kansas's 3rd is gone for Republicans. And there are just some seats that we know cannot be won by them that were initially considered swing districts. Same probably with Minnesota's 2nd as well. And we also know that there are some seats that are kind of out of touch for the Democrats as well. Like the new district in Arizona likely won't really be in play for them anymore. And yeah, and so that's really about it. That's really all I had to say about the 2024 House elections and where I believe the shift is going towards for either party. I believe Republicans will end up picking up a few seats in 2024, but it won't be very much to expand their majority, and Democrats will go down just a little bit. But either way, it's going to remain a fairly neutral year. We are not going to see a huge swing in either direction. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Like it down below and subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll see you later. Bye.